How frequently do you hear true stories with twist endings and bizarre facts? Do you ever hear of missing kids who vanish without a trace, leaving their families in complete chaos? Make sure you watch this video all the way through if you want to learn more about one. It all began with Madeline Clifton's mother dialing 911, believing her daughter was in the house with the family. At that moment, the 8-year-old child was running about the place. Her mother, Sheila, described her as a Caucasian girl with reddish-brown hair when she went missing. Every neighbor looked for Maddie, who had inexplicably vanished just before the 911 call. They informed Maddie's father that his daughter had gone missing when he arrived. Where might she have gone? Shortly after, the police came to the neighborhood to help with the search, but no one could have predicted the heartbreaking and terrifying twist in the case. Joshua Phillips, Maddie's friend and neighbor, was the last person to see her on November 3, 1998. Josh was a 14-year-old child who lived across the street from Maddie. Maddie was last seen wearing a red YMCA basketball shirt with the number 5 in the middle of the back and her name inscribed across the back shoulders. Josh asked Maddie's mother what was going on. The neighbors gathered, searching for her in the woods and dumpsters. He enthusiastically offered to join the search group to find Maddie when he learned that no one had seen her. As a teenager, he did all he could to locate her. He assisted in canvassing the area where she vanished in the hopes of finding her, and even posted flyers with her information. The family put up a prize of $50,000, hoping that someone would recognize her and inform her bereaved relatives what had happened to their bright and joyful little girl. Although it had been almost a week since Maddie went missing, the community rallied to help find her. The police were at the forefront of the inquiry. The initial suspect had an alibi when Maddie vanished, and when the police were unable to discover any new leads, they called in the FBI. However, the FBI failed to follow up on any information. Soon, it looked like Maddie had vanished from the face of the earth. 6 days after Maddie vanished, everything changed as this disclosed the darkest secret to the most unexpected person. Josh's mother spotted a weird damp mark on their house's floor and went into his room to investigate. "I didn't want to accept what I was witnessing," she said after searching the room when she uncovered Josh's bed. She stepped outside and looked at the Cliftons' house, troubled that they were still holding out hope that Maddie was still someplace outdoors. She tracked down an officer sleeping outside the Clifton home and asked him to accompany her back inside. He entered Josh's room alone, and the Cliftons' life came crashing down around them as the missing person case spiraled out of control. Josh was aware that Maddie's body was beneath his waterbed. Her little feet protruded from beneath Josh's mattress, a terrible sight. Josh had known where Maddie was all along when he inquired about what was going on, when he pretended to be concerned about Maddie and handed out posters with her information. Josh used the tape to hold the bed frame together to protect her corpse from being discovered. Investigators also found that Maddie's shorts had been taken off, and also found a baseball bat as well as a knife. There were several air fresheners and recently lit incense in Josh's room. The air fresheners suggested a hasty attempt to mask the stench of Maddie's decaying remains. The fact that Josh put the flyer regarding Maddie's abduction next to the air fresheners was even more distressing. Another alarming revelation was her hand still gripping the bed frame when her corpse was being retrieved from beneath the bed, meaning she was still alive when she was thrown in there, and everyone was looking for her, even Josh. Maddie still might be alive today if Josh had reported what had occurred earlier. According to the autopsy, Maddie was hit 3 times in the head, and it's suspected Josh's baseball bat was used as the weapon. Her throat had also been slashed with Josh's knife, and she had been stabbed 7 to 11 times. Even though the killer removed her underwear, the autopsy revealed no indication of an assault. On the other hand, prosecutors would subsequently show this information as crucial evidence. Josh Phillips was arrested on November 10, 1998, which surprised everyone in the neighborhood because he was characterized as a peaceful and pleasant boy. Within hours, he acknowledged murdering Maddie on the day she was reported missing, and Josh then offered his versions of events. When Maddie came over and invited him to play, Josh was home alone. When his parents weren't there, he wasn't permitted to invite friends over. Maddie was accidentally hit in the eye by the ball while playing baseball in the backyard. She began to cry out loudly as she began to bleed. He carried Maddie into his house to soothe her, but she continued to cry. He went into a frenzy and grew increasingly concerned that his father might return at any moment. His father would be furious because he let Maddie into the house without permission. Josh took out the baseball bat and struck Maddie in the head once or twice, hoping to keep her quiet. After that, he hid her body beneath his waterbed. Josh claimed Maddie was still moaning when his father arrived home. He took her out of the bed, stabbed her in the chest, and concealed her corpse again. Many people still believe Josh slept on top of Maddie's body on his bed. Josh had no history of violence and no reason to mistrust him, especially given his conduct while assisting in the search for Maddie. Even yet, the detectives couldn't understand Josh's version of events. Many individuals agreed with the investigators that his explanation lacked credibility. He claimed that Maddie's shorts were stripped off when he dragged her inside. However, there was no dirt on her body when she was discovered. Moreover, despite Josh's assertions that a ball struck her, there was no proof that they had been playing baseball and no bruises on her face. Furthermore, except for Josh's room, there was no blood in the backyard or anywhere else in the house. Maddie was discovered with only her shorts and socks, and this suggested that the evidence had some questionable implications. The community was shocked to find that the youngster who assisted in her search was her killer. The trial lasted barely 3 days, and the jury found Josh guilty of first-degree murder. He was tried as an adult during the trial. His defense maintained that Maddie's death resulted from an accident that worsened due to panic, and that he should be charged with manslaughter. Josh was condemned to life in jail without the possibility of release. He is still adamant about not discussing Maddie's death in detail. In 2018, he matured from a teenager to an adult in prison and apologized to Maddie's family. While reading his apologetic letter, Josh grew teary many times, indicating genuine remorse. On the other hand, analysts believe he is putting on a show to boost his chances of receiving a lower sentence. Instead of apologizing to the victim, he spent much of his time explaining himself and his misery. If you think this is the saga's conclusion, there is more to come. More shocking revelations were revealed during a Supreme Court hearing in 2012. Just half an hour before Maddie died, Josh was said to be looking at pornography on his computer. It was a violent film that included young females. Josh might have been affected by this video and fantasized about acting in a similar role. If this is the case, he may not have expressly picked Maddie. Instead, he took advantage of the situation while he was alone and unsupervised with her. Maddie's mother testified during the trial, admitting that Josh was chasing Maddie's older sister Jessie, who was 11. Investigators had discovered a photo of Jessie in Josh's room, which he had taken from the Cliftons' residence before Maddie's death. The discovery suggests that the crime was premeditated, although Josh claimed that it was committed in the heat of the moment. It supports the theory that he had always obsessed over the Cliftons' eldest daughter. After a 4-day trial, Josh's sentence was upheld. Nonetheless, this case will resume sooner than you can imagine, since Josh will be eligible for resentencing in 2023 after serving 25 years in jail. For the time being, there is no conclusion to this case.